A person's strengths are often their biggest weaknesses. And so that also means that their weaknesses can be their strengths. I am weak, but I don't accept that. I don't accept that I am what I am and that is what I'm doomed to be. I'm always fighting, I'm struggling, and I'm scrapping, and I'm kicking and clawing at those weaknesses to change them, to stop them.
There are times in life when conflicts and trouble arise. And how we deal with these conflicts and how we deal with these troubles reveals more about our character than we want to admit. Because what you are when the pressure is on is what you really are.
Let me tell you something, the stuff you've been through, don't pay it any attention. It is just a sign that the baby is coming. You're on the verge of birthing. You're about to give birth. I don't care whether you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. There's something down inside of you that's still kicking inside of you that wants to get out and it wants to live.
Some days I win. Some days I don't. But each and every day I get back up and I move forward with my fist clenched toward the struggle. And I fight with everything I've got to overcome those weaknesses and those shortfalls and those flaws as I strive to be just a little bit better today than I was yesterday.
As long as there's people, there's going to be conflict, disagreements, contention, dissension. Family reunions would be really nice if you didn't have to deal with your family. But everywhere there's people, there's going to be strife. There's going to be conflict. There's going to be trouble because that's just the way it is.
Sometimes you can try so hard at something. Sometimes you can be so prepared, still fail. And with every time you fail, it's painful. I've often said a man's character is not judged after he celebrates a victory but by what he does when his back is against the wall.
You've got to be knocked down and then be willing to continue. You're going to be laughed at, and you're going to be ridiculed. You're going to face self-doubt. You're going to be exhausted at times. You're going to face all sorts of challenges if you want to get to your Mount Everest. Everything that happens to you is for your growth. It's the times of suffering that make you great.
So no matter how great the setback, how severe the failure, you never give up.
Get up, change your position. And listen, if you can't stand up, look up. Just change your position. Start writing as though you're already up. Start planning as though you're already up. Start acting as though you're already up. Get up in your believing. Get up in your hopes. Get up in your aspirations.
It's necessary you take responsibility for it, that you make it happen, that you don't give up, that you keep on keeping on, that you don't decide that I can't make it because you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, that you realize that's a part of the program. And here's something you've got to resolve. Say this to yourself every day. See, as long as you're breathing, you got a shot at your dream. That's the way I resolve. Say this, please. It's not over until I win. You've got that right.
Start doing everything that you can, because remember, the areas of your focus are the areas of your reward, and the areas of your neglect are the areas of your pain.
when change is involved, somehow we get into this thing where we're kind of waiting for somebody else to do it. We're waiting on someone else to arrive. I mean, we've got to stop that. We got to stop waiting for someone to change before you change. You got to stop waiting for somebody to help you change.
You've got to weigh before you pay. Whether you're going to spend heavy time or light time, you've just got to weigh. Otherwise, if you're not careful, you can get trapped into spending heavyweight time with lightweight people. Now, it's okay to have casual friends as long as you give them casual time, not serious time. Spend major time with major influence and minor time with minor influence. So maybe all you need to do to change some of the influences in your life is not to eliminate them, but merely limit them. Take a look at your priorities and your values. We have so little time at our disposal. Wouldn't it make sense to invest it wisely?
If you can teach people to stand up in the face of the things they're afraid of, they get stronger. And you don't know what the upper limits to that are, because you might ask yourself, like, if for 10 years, if you didn't avoid doing what you knew you needed to do, what would you be like? Well, you know, there are remarkable people who come into the world from time to time, and there are people who do find out over decades-long periods what they could be like if they were who they were, if they spoke their being forward. And they get stronger and stronger and stronger, and we don't know the limits to that. We do not know the limits to that.
You must determine whether the situation and the people call for disassociation or limited association. But remember, if it isn't taking you where you want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, now is the time to fix it.
And so if your life isn't everything it could be, you could ask yourself, well, what would happen if you just stopped wasting the opportunities that are in front of you? You'd be who knows how much more efficient, 10 times more efficient, 20 times more efficient. You have no idea how efficient people get. Well, and if we all got our act together collectively and stopped making things worse, because that's another thing people do all the time, if people stop really, really trying just to make things worse, we have no idea how much better they would get just because of that.
Come on, you got to keep your courage up. Your bank account might be going down, but keep your courage up. Your grades might have gone down last semester, but if you keep your courage up, you can get your grades back up. Even if everything else goes down, keep up your courage. If you got to borrow some money, if you got to take a little while, if you got to take a time out, just keep going forward and it will happen.
I want you to get some determination. I want you to put your shoulders back. I want you to put your feet down. I want you to understand that you can't choose what happens to you in life, but you always get to choose how you respond to what happens to you in life. I'm telling you, life is 10% what happens. It's really 90% how you react. You need to predetermine now your reactions, because it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. Storms will come.
We have to learn patience. Patience is a virtue. Patience is the ability to wait with the right attitude. Because you're going to wait one way or another. The question is, will you be patient while you wait? And will you choose the right spirit in all seasons?
You never give up. You pick yourself up. You brush yourself off. You push forward. You move on. You adapt. You overcome. That is what I believe.
Hunger, I believe, is even more important than intelligence. Intelligence is so important, but there are a lot of very intelligent people that never maximize their capability. How many know somebody very smart that can't fight their way out of a paper bag? Say hi. So intelligence is so valuable, but hunger is even more. And if you've come to a program like this, I know the hunger is there. But the second thing it requires is a massive amount of energy. Because what I've found in life is many times people have the ability to do things. They know what to do, they just don't do it. And a big part of that is energy. So when I was back there feeling the energy, got the music, it's so quiet in here. You're being quiet right now. Most of you are doing what you've done most of your life when you went to an education environment. And what is that?
you're now learning the way you did when you went to a 20th century school. In a 20th century school, what do we learn? The bell rings, and what are you supposed to do? Immediately report to your what? Position. And when you get to that position, you're supposed to sit down and start a conversation with the people around you. Is that right? You're supposed to initiate. Is that right? No. When you went 20th century school, you were taught, sit down, be quiet, be passive, wait till someone tells you what to do. Today, if you wait for someone to tell you what to do, if you don't talk to your neighbor, you're out of business. Who's with me here? Say, ah. So I'd like to change this, because how many of you in this room have ever gone to an environment where you learned something that you thought was really, truly valuable? No one sold you on it. You personally thought, this is really something that could change my business, change my life. You were excited about it. But when you went home, you literally never applied a bit of what you've learned. Who's ever done this before? Raise your hand, say, I. Oh, come on. If you're not raising high, hand, you lie about other shit too. Raise your hand, say, I. Who's done this more than once in your life? Say, I. Who still feels intelligent? Say, I. So we're all smart people. Why would smart people learn something, get an environment like this, and then not maximize it? It's because we've all been conditioned by our traditional education, which was designed back in the 19th century, 20th century, where you designed to get a job, where you were supposed to report at a certain position, someone told you what to do. Basically, it was an assembly line. Today, that's not true. So I like to break out of that, because research shows if you sit and listen to me passively like you are right now, you're being very nice, smiling, nodding your head, being sweet. I appreciate it. But if you do that, research shows 3 months from now, you'll remember about 10% of what was said, which basically was wasting your time and wasting mine too. I don't want to waste yours, much less mine. So if you listen and take notes, it jumps up to the 40, 50 percentile, even if you never look at the notes again. Because just writing it down drives the groove deeper. So I'd encourage you to do that. I don't see many of you with any form of notes, but I know you have your phones. Some of you do, but if you have no notes, you must not have had a very high expectation of much value coming out of the session, clearly. But thirdly, if you physically engage your body, which is what I like to do, your voice, your body, your energy, engagement is part of what we're going to talk about here in business. It's the most pathetic level in a long time worldwide. Even though we have all these tools for productivity, we have all these tools for distraction. And as a result, most people are not maximizing. So if we want to transform, the thing we really need to be able to shift is get ourselves engaged at a different level. So what I'd like to ask you to do is, from here on out, if you're willing to, is let's start with some energy. Because let me ask you a question. If you have two people in a relationship, let's just go intimate for a moment. And you have two people, and both these individuals are really, they're in a magnificent state of mind and emotion. Their life is going beautifully. They're happy as could possibly be. And they enter a relationship, two really happy people. What's that relationship going to be like? You tell me, if you know nothing else. What kind of relationship's going to be if you got two people in a great peak state? Tell me, what's it going to be like? Now, if I'm having a soliloquy, you won't get anything out of this. I'm asking you to then answer the question, just so you refer back to me or affirm. I'm doing it because if you sit passively, you won't remember anything. But if you activate your nervous system by raising your hand, by asking questions, by yelling out the answer, then the energy will rise. Who's willing to do this? If you are, raise your hand, say, I.
I spoke at an education summit for Microsoft. I also spoke at an education summit for Apple. At the education summit for Microsoft, I would say that 70% of the executives spent about 70% of their presentations talking about how to beat Apple. At the Apple Education Summit, 100% of the executives spent 100% of their presentations talking about how to help teachers teach and how to help students learn. One is playing this way and one is playing that way. One is playing finite and the other one is playing infinite. Guess which one gets frustrated? So at the end of my talk at Microsoft, they gave me a gift. They gave me the new Zune when it was a thing. And let me tell you, this thing was spectacular. It was the most elegant piece of technology I'd ever used. The user interface was incredible. The design was spectacular. I absolutely loved it. It was easy to use, and it was bright and gorgeous and fantastic. It didn't work on iTunes, which is a different problem, so I couldn't use it, but it was amazing. And elegant. My God, it was elegant. So I'm sitting in the back of a taxi with a very senior Apple executive, sort of employee number 12 kind of guy. And, you know, I like to stir pots. So I turned to him, I said, you know, Microsoft gave me their new Zune, and it is so much better than your iPod Touch. And he turned to me and he said, I have no doubt. Conversation over. Because the infinite player understands sometimes you're ahead and sometimes you're behind. Sometimes your product is better and sometimes it's worse. The goal isn't to be the best every day. The goal isn't to outdo your competition every day. That's a finite construction. If I had said to Microsoft, I've got the new iPod Touch and it's so much better than your Zoom, they would have said, can we see it? What does it do? React, 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 react. Finite players play to beat the people around them. Infinite players play to be better than themselves. To wake up every single day and say, how can we make our company a better version of itself today than it was yesterday? How can we create a product this week that's better than the product we created last week? We also have to play the infinite game. It's not about being ranked number one. It's not about having more followers on Twitter than your friends. It's not about outdoing anyone. It's about how to outdo yourself. It's not about selling more books or getting more TED views than somebody else. It's about how to make sure that the work that you're producing is better than the work you produced before. You are your competition. And that is what ensures you stay in the game the longest. And that is what ensures you find joy. Because the joy comes not from comparison, but from advancement.
Let me show you what turned my life every way but loose. Mr. Shoaff dropped this idea on me, changed me completely. Setting goals. Here's what can easily happen if you don't set goals. It's easy to let life deteriorate into making a living instead of designing a life. And we all have a choice. Make a living or design a life. It's easy to get trapped by economic necessity and settle for existence rather than substance. That's easy. But the best advice I can give you on how to break out of that trap is to learn how to set goals. Mr. Shoaff put it to me this way. He said, Jim, if you had enough reasons, you could do the most incredible things. I never forgot how he put that. If you have enough reasons. See, reasons will change your whole life. Mr. Shoaff said to me, he said, Mr. Rohn, I think you've got plenty of intelligence, you've got plenty of talent, you've got plenty of ability. Probably what you lack is plenty of reasons. He said, I don't think your current bank balance is a true indication of your level of intelligence. I was happy to hear that. He said, I think you're much smarter than your present bank balance indicates. And that turned out to be true. I was much smarter. But of course my first question was, well then why isn't it bigger? And he said, you don't have enough reasons. You've got enough intelligence, but not enough reasons. So see, reasons can change your life. Here's what else I found out. Reasons come first, answers come second. You don't get the answers to do well till you get the reasons. Life has a mysterious way of hanging on to all the answers and only gives them up to the people that are inspired by reasons. So reasons make the difference in how your life works out. Now, what are some of the reasons for doing well? Let's go through a quick list called Reasons for Doing Well. First is personal reasons. Some people do well for recognition. Some people do well for respect. Some people do well for the way it makes them feel. They love the feeling of being a winner. Those are good reasons. I have some millionaire friends that keep working 10, 12 hours a day, making more millions. And it's not because they need the money. It's because they need the joy and the satisfaction and the pleasure that comes from being a constant winner. And see, it's not just the money anyway. It's the journey, not the money. Once in a while somebody says to me, boy, if I had $1 million, I'd never work another day in my life. That's probably why the good Lord sees to it they don't get their million, right? They'd quit. They'd quit.
We wonder why our culture's depressed when depressed people get all the love and attention. Isn't that interesting? It's hard to figure this one out, isn't it? So what I want you to do is you got to make a choice. You can either bow your head and fit in, because if you stand out, then there are going to be a few people that are going to take shots at you, and that comes with the territory. So you either get to live with your head bowed or live with your head high and take a few hits and enjoy your life like most people never will. But you got to choose, because you can't live in between. There is no in between. Either step up or you step down. We all have a fear we're insignificant and unloved, or will be. So that's all that's happening for you. It's called being a human. It just shows up in the context because you picked a profession where on a regular basis you need to make requests of people, and lots of times they're going to say no, and their no becomes for him rejection, failure. Worthless is the word he would never say that he really felt. He doesn't want to say worthless because that scares the hell out of him. So he says, not successful. Failure, not successful. He'll never get the worthless because that's a scary word to say. No one wants to say they feel worthless, but that's what everybody's afraid of feeling. Now, search your own heart, your own experience, and see if that's true. And that's probably not true for you, but how many have seen other people have a fear of being worthless or not being loved or not successful? Other people, how many have seen that? Of course, those other people have those feelings. So maybe you do too at times. Now, I know you don't feel that way when you're competent and you're in charge and you're controlled and everything's going your way. That's your plan, that you do all those things. Some people work all the time so they can feel that because they have control. They're with their kids and they feel incompetent, so they go back and work more. Because they don't know how to deal with this thing. The kid wants to watch the Disney show for the 5,000th time. You know, they don't know how to deal with that. So human beings have these common fears. Now, what do? Well, here's the truth. The fear will never leave you completely. That's the truth. So when you know something's true, it's best to hug the monster instead of fear the monster. Only way to deal with fear that I found in my life is a couple ways. One of those ways is to turn it on itself and ask yourself, what am I afraid of? If I'm afraid of that, I got to be more afraid of what I'm going to miss out on, missing out on my mission, missing out on who I'm supposed to be. In other words, if you're not getting rid of fear, then use fear. Use fear or it uses you. It's that simple. You know, fear is at pandemic levels. Fear is, viral today. And as you know, when someone gets in a fearful place for whatever reason, whether it's something real or not, it has a hormonal response. All of a sudden, the heart starts racing. You start to breathe shallow. Everything narrows down your focus. And what happens is we go into survival. And we all have a survival brain because we all have a 2 million-year-old brain. And that brain's always looking for what's wrong. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that tap into that today.
I was a millionaire by age 31. I'm broke by age 33. Couple of million, 2.5 million, all swept away. Making foolish decisions. That first money, it's really hard to keep. I'm just a young guy, 31, 32 years old. But sure enough, I fell for some of the temptations. Somebody's going to be parted with their money before long when they say, like I did, how many colors does it come in, right? I'll buy them all. That kind of sort of recklessness. And then making some unwise business decisions. Company wanted to borrow some money, $250,000. The bank said, well, if Mr. Rohn will sign personally, we'll let you have the money. And I knew they could pay it back, so I signed, so I'm the hero. They pay it all back. I leave, go away. I find out a little bit later that the company got in financial trouble, went back and borrowed this $250,000 again. And I said, well, I hope they don't call me, because this time I won't sign. I signed the first note, it was all paid back, but I knew they weren't going to make it this time. And they never called. However, sure enough, within a year, this company goes belly up. And I get a letter from the bank saying, dear Mr. Rohn, we have here your guarantee that if the company can't perform, you will. On this $250,000, please send us your check. And I said, hey, there's been some mistake here. I signed the first note, but nobody ever called me. I never signed the second note. What I didn't know that I had originally signed was a continuing guarantee. Now I know what the word continuing means. I know how much it costs per letter. But anyway, that and a few other experiences, and, you know, some of my newfound wealth was on paper, and that disappeared. So sure enough, from poor to rich and from rich back to poor, what do you do now? What occurred to me was that even though my money was gone, I still had the skills. And the skills proved to be more valuable than the money. So I just simply went back to work, went back to the street. Back using the formula I had used in the first place to do well and made many times more what I did the first time. But I think that's the key. You just have to go back to work. And part of it was I was willing to readjust my lifestyle. The fancy cars had to go, the homes and all that stuff had to go. And you go back to a modest apartment and a modest place and pull everything down to start over rather than try and keep living up here when you should have to start over back to the street or whatever you have to do. And just put it together again. No different than the farmer who plants in the spring and it's all gone when the hailstorm is finished. He goes back in the spring and says, let's try it one more time. I can't imagine 2 years in a row. Once in a while, maybe there would be 2 years in a row when you get wiped out, but not that often. So you try it again. And probably from the experience, if you treat it right and keep the right attitude, you'll be stronger than you were the first time around or the second time around. But everything comes down to attitude and philosophy. When I first started working on my fortune as well as my living, my mentor said it depends on your attitude. If you say, I'm working a little extra time to pay some bills, that'd be one thing. But if you said, I'm working a little extra time to start my fortune, see, that makes getting out of bed totally different. To get up to pay some extra bills is one thing. To get up to lay the foundation for your fortune, see, is a whole different attitude and mindset and philosophy. So if you have the right attitude, no matter what's happened, if you just readjust your attitude and your philosophy and a whole new mindset and start again.
These people aren't living life. They're not truly experiencing life. What do you really want to do? Well, I don't like this, but I guess I'll go ahead on and do. No! The life is too short for that. Too short and unpredictable, moseying through. Not trying to disturb anything, not trying to shake anything up, not trying to make any waves. You see, there are some people who come through the universe and their level of contribution and the level of energy they manifest is so small, so inconspicuous that when they go, you won't even know they left. I mean, there are people who die on jobs and you say, hey, where's John? Oh, John been dead 6 months. You're kidding. No. Is that right? Yeah. I didn't know. Why did somebody say, well, I guess we didn't miss him. But there's some people, because of their personality, because of their contribution, because of the investment of their time and their energy and the impact they have there, that when they go, everybody will miss them. So when Mother Teresa checks out, everybody will know. When Rosa Parks, everybody will know. Nelson Mandela, everybody will know. Why? Because of their contribution. See, but there's some people, because their contribution is so small, no one will care. So I'm saying, before you are boxed and buried, decide that you're going to box and bury your fears. Decide that you're going to begin to live life on a new level, seeking out new horizons, that you're going to find more love and more joy and more ways to give more to life. God said something, I love this. He says, everything a man does for himself, guess what? He takes with him. But everything he does for others, he leaves behind. So when you begin to say, what is it that I want to leave? What contribution that I want to begin to make? What difference do I want to make in life? What is it that I want to do with the rest of the life that I have left? What chances I need to take? What risks do I need to begin to embrace? What fears do I need to step on? What areas of my life am I dead right now? What dream? You can either live your dreams or live your fears. You have got to get to a point where you say, I'm sick and tired of living like this. There's got to be more. That's when people go out and strike out on their dreams. That's when people get out of relationships where they're dying together rather than growing together. That's when they leave jobs. So where are you going? Away from here.
If you understand completely what I'm going to tell you from this moment on, your life will never be the same again. The things you want just seem to fall in line. And from now on, you won't have the problems, the worries, the gnawing lump of anxiety that perhaps you've experienced before. They'll be things of the past. Here's the key to success. We become what we think about.
When you go to sleep at night, how are you going to feel about your day? All depends on who you decide to include in your day. You got 24 hours in a day. Stop running around acting as if you don't have a choice. You do have a choice.
Waking up early, working out every day, if you start with those two kind of cornerstones, and then the other thing is, figure out what you're going to do during the day. Don't go to bed without a plan of how you're going to handle the next day.
To go forward or to go back. You're going to always have that decision. I made all of my dreams bigger than my fears. So when I felt like quitting, the results would have been devastating to the goal I was trying to attain. My motivation was, I was just exhausted from poverty.
See, whatever you're worried about, if someone called you right now and say, listen, you got 2 days to live, I'm telling you, you won't be worried about your bills, ladies and gentlemen. Look at your life right now. If you want to keep on getting what you're getting, keep on doing what you're doing. You've got to be willing to change your ways.
You do have a choice. You love rumors, you love issues, you love problems, you love people calling you with their problems. You love it. That's why at the end of every night you are drained, because you are submerged yourself in dysfunctional things, people, and situations.
I have a schedule, and I execute the schedule. Parts of my day are very structured. Parts of my day are very disciplined, which gives me freedom in other parts of the day.
I was sick of living in my car. I've been living in my car for 3 years. I was sick of not having money. And so for me to quit, and see, that's what people do. People quit when it's at their hardest moment. But if it's at your hardest moment, why would you quit? I mean, think about it. If you're going through hell, why stop there? Move, keep going.
Your life is working. If you don't like what you have produced, you're a director, you are the star, you wrote this script. If you want to begin to make this stuff happen for you, I think that it's very important that you start trusting yourself. Listen to yourself.
Don't try and make everything logical. There's some things about life that defies logic, that you just can't explain how the outcome is going to be.
And then at the very end of the day, what I do, one of the last things I do after my prayer is I read through my goals and my dreams. I picture them. When I get my sleep, it's going to work on revealing to me. It's playing back the video, believe it or not, of my day in my mind, and it helps me wake up ready to get them as well.
They have the magic touch. You've heard them say that about someone. Everything he touches turns to gold. And have you ever noticed that a man who becomes successful tends to continue to become successful? It's because of goals. Some of us have them, some don't. People with goals succeed because they know where they're going.
Don't let neglect destroy your days, destroy your life, and destroy your future. Go back and do what you can. And if you'll do what you can, then life will give you some extraordinary things to do. You got to take care of the small disciplines before life will give you a chance to handle the more complicated disciplines.
You've got to control the beginning and the end of your day with your thinking. And so one of the first things you need to do when you wake up is to take a 5-minute window and you visually see your goals and dreams. Picture them as videos in your mind. Picture them as you possessing them and see them written down on a sheet of paper. This will begin to control your mind for the day.
And you are here this week to learn vital information about creating a future and be defined by a vision of the future instead of the memories of the past.
Why? We conform. And the trouble is that we're acting like the wrong percentage group, the 95% who don't succeed. These people believe that their lives are shaped by circumstances, by things that happen to them, by exterior forces. They're outer-directed people.
A habit is something you do without giving it any conscious thought. And you know that most people live by habit. They don't think. The late and great Dr. McFarland from down in Kentucky said 2% of the people think, 3% of the people think they think, and he said 95% of the people would rather die than think.
The wonderful thing is this: if you do what other successful people do, you eventually get the same result that they do. Most people are broke up into their 40s and 50s. So if you're broke today, you're just one of the gang. The only question is, do you stay there? And the answer is no.
If you are not defined by some vision that is bigger than you, and you are not passionate about that vision, then you're left with the old hardware of the past in your brain, and you will be predictable in your life.
Now, when I started off in this many years ago, I came from very poor beginnings. I dropped out of high school. I could only get laboring jobs. I was told, by the way, if you don't get a good education, you won't do well in life. And I believed that for a long time until I found there's hundreds of thousands, millions of people who dropped out of high school who went on to become millionaires and billionaires as well.
A survey was made one time that covered a lot of men, working men, and these men were asked this question: why do you get up in the morning? 19 out of 20 had no idea. If you ask them, they'll say, everyone goes to work in the morning. And that's the reason they do it.
Learning is the beginning of life change. Some people want to start with motivation. You don't start with motivation. You can tell we don't spend that much time on motivation. And we're here, enough motivation, certainly. But here's the best motivation we've got going. When we bring our dedication and let it show, we let the work of our hands show, that's the motivation we want.
You've got to learn how to walk by faith and not by sight. That once you begin to trust yourself, life takes on a whole new meaning, because now I want you to do that feeling that you are led.
When we think a new thought, literally opens a space up in our minds, in our lives, that never existed before prior to having that thought. And what happens is your unconscious and subconscious mind goes to work on filling in that space with the people, places, resources, and things to fill up that space and fully furnish it. That's the power of how we think.
You are thinking in the past. And so most people then spend the majority of their life talking about why they never arrive at their vision of the future because of some past experience.
You can exercise them, and you can literally create the start of anything because you are a creator. The only thing about a man that is a man is his mind. Everything else you can find in a pig or a horse.
At some point, we all bought into this lie that you've got to feel ready in order to change. At some point, you're going to have the courage. At some point, you're going to have the confidence. And it's complete garbage. And so there are so many people in the world and you know, maybe watching this right now, and you have these incredible ideas, and what you think is missing is motivation. And that's not true.
Our work is to fully express that which we are. Our work is to express that which God has designed us to be. We get to have more and do more and give more and be more, because the truth is we already are more.
We say that success is not an accident. Failure is not an accident. So if you just follow the tracks of other successful people, no matter where you're starting from, you eventually get to the same place that they get. The two most important things we need to have to be happy and healthy is a sense of control, things are happening for a reason, and a sense of coherence, a feeling that things fit together.
Your future is in your hands. You know what that means? You got to work on your mind. Fortify yourself. You got to upgrade, level up your skill set. You want to be in a community of collaborative, supportive relationships that's going in your direction. And anybody that don't have the mindset that you have, let them go.
Just get stronger. Get better. We've all got those personal winters. I'm asking all of you to get better in spite of the winters, in spite of the downturn. The money downturn, the social downturn, the personal downturn, whatever it is. The key is not to wish for a better winter. The key is to wish for more strength, more wisdom, more courage, get better, get wiser, get stronger.
Some of you are having problems with battles of things you're trying to change and you can't change them. Old habits that you were keeping for the last 20 years, and now you want to change, and it's tough to change. If you keep watching pornography, you keep reading dirty books, and the first time you see it, it doesn't bother you. But if you keep seeing it, it becomes downloaded.
When an idea comes into your mind, you want to ask yourself this question. Don't ask whether it's wrong or whether it's right. That's not the question. Do you know what the question is? Will that idea take me from where I am and move me in the direction of the star that I'm shooting at?
You're never going to feel like it. Motivation's garbage. You only feel motivated to do the things that are easy. Why is it so hard to do the little things that would improve my life? And what I've come to realize, the way that our minds are designed, is our minds are designed to stop you at all costs from doing anything that might hurt you.
Our work is to simply bring into the expression that which has been impressed, to do the work of the soul so that the seeds of greatness that have been sown within us, we do the work that we have to do so that those seeds of greatness can manifest in our life, world, and affairs.
You have to become a totally different human being. In order to achieve something you've never achieved before, you have to become someone you've never been before. It's the qualities that you need to develop, the qualities on the inside, incredible qualities that make you a vastly better person. Not only better in terms of character, discipline, decision-making, strength, and so on, they make you a far better person. They round out your character in a far better way.
You could actually learn faster and actually have an ease, a confidence, be able to succeed, but also have this level of harmony inside of yourself, this clarity of thought. Sharpen the saw. The metaphor here is if you have all this wood to cut and you have a saw with a dull blade, when do you want to sharpen it? Because a lot of people are going to work hard, they're going to work a lot harder, and they're going to sweat and perspire and work 3 or 4 times harder when they could have sharpened their saw.
It's a new day, and it's a new day. It's got to be a new you. A lot of people have thrown in the towel, have forgotten how we got here. We rather walk in dignity rather than ride in shame.
It's not the experience that's the best teacher. It's reflection turns experience into insight. Well, we get good at that by understanding that experience isn't enough. After every experience, I have to pull away, and I have to ask myself, okay, what did I learn?
How you think and how you feel creates your state of being. So if you think insecure thoughts, in a matter of seconds, you are going to feel insecure. Your brain is monitoring how you're feeling, and you think more insecure thoughts. And the repetition of that cycle conditions the body to become the mind of insecurity. And then the person says, I am insecure.
Don't go untouched. Don't go unmoved. When you walk out of here, open yourself up. Don't build up the walls. Take the walls down. Let yourself be touched by what's going on out there. Let your heart get touched.
Your life comes down to your decisions, and if you change your decisions, you will change everything. And at some point, I think we all hit that moment in life where things just are not going how you thought they would go. And what's amazing about those moments is we all respond very differently.
And so imagination then gives us the ability to create the inner picture. We have an inexhaustible imagination. And so consequently, we have an unlimited future.